Sunset Beach Town Council work session, the 8:45 work session. The first item on the agenda under work session is agenda review.
Do we need a motion to get back into open session?
Well, I just did. I just did it. We
Just don't want you to go to jail.
I don't either, but all right. It's open for discussion on the agenda items, which is really on the second page.
All right, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and I will need a second, I would like to defer the conflict of interest policy until the, I believe it's March 5th, council meeting for a vote. We're still gathering input from the attorney. And also, I would like to defer until the March 5th meeting, any discussion regarding the cabanas as we still gather data. And this is presently also being reviewed by the attorney.
Do I have a second? All right, now, that's on an action meeting. The 5th is going to be an action meeting. If these are going to involve a lot of discussion, it was my understanding that we were going to limit the agenda discussions to the second meeting, and that would be the first meeting in March.
I thought so too, Rich, first week in March. First week in March.
I'm lost. Help me out.
Action is in the first meeting.
Right,
Those are the dates he gave.
right, but are we going to? Is the
Well,
conflict
it
of
could-
interest going to involve discussion, and is the
Well,
cabanas going to involve discussion?
Unless you want to put these issues on the workshop, but the 20th is a budget meeting. Is it also going to include a workshop?
The budget meeting's at 1 o'clock. So we have a regular meeting in the morning and then a budget meeting and then 1 o'clock. But the things that are going to be involved, a lot of discussion, the intent was, as I understood it, was that they be the second meeting in the month.
So,
Whatever second
I
month.
thought we would make action on this.
If you're in a position to do it, but I don't want to spend 2 hours talking about it at an action.
I don't want to see the cabanas taken off the agenda tonight.
Well, okay, that's for discussion. Okay,
It's
we have
on
to
the
vote on it.
agenda. I would like to discuss it.
Then let's, with your permission, we'll bifurcate, and first we'll take the conflict of interest policy to the 5th. Does the council think that they're going to be in a position to be able to act on it without further discussion on the 5th? I mean, without substantial discussion on the 5th?
Yes,
Depends
because
on
we
what
just
it
got the
looks like.
information from Grady.
Well, all right, well, we'll get to it then. Okay, so the motion, the first half of the motion is that it be we're going to have to call it correctly, and I'll explain why in a second, to table it to the 5th, to March 5th meeting.
That's
That's the
correct.
conflict of interest policy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The second is the beach-related issues, cabanas, police presence, trash. The motion was to move it to the 5th. I asked Rich, because he made the motion to bifurcate it. You agree to be bifurcated? You seconded it, the original motion. Okay. Discussion on it. Jan, you don't want to do that. You want that to discuss it tonight.
Yes, I do.
All right. Any other discussion?
Because it's scheduled on March 5th, doesn't mean that it has to be an action item, unless you want to discuss cabanas formally too at a workshop on the 20th. There's a lot of input that we're still trying to get from the attorney and a lot of advice that we need, but I don't mind keeping it on the agenda since it's on the agenda if people wish to talk about it as an agenda item, or they can discuss it at the public comment section.
Right, it doesn't preclude them talking about it in the public comment section. All right.
We need to stop kicking this can down the road. We need to address this problem.
Oh,
What we need to do is stop bringing cabanas up at all. We've got a good set of rules going that have been working. If we have minor tweaks that we need to make,
Well,
then use our UDOs to make them.
all right, let's not get into the policy of change or not. We're just dealing with an agenda item. Are we going to keep it as an agenda item? That's what the motion's for, not, is to remove it, and Jan said she's opposed to it. So the motion is to remove it and move it, to table it until March 5th. All those in favor?
Is it March 5th, or is it at the
Yeah,
next
you said March
workshop?
5th. You
Well,
said-
that's what I'm
you
trying to
said
get a-
March 5th.
Well, can I revise it to the next workshop?
If,
Rich, listen, I don't wanna go farther than March 5th.
no, he meant the 20th.
So we have a discussion on the
You meant
workshop on
February
February 20th at the 9 AM session, and then we.
No,
can
we don't.
vote.
At the 9 AM session, we have a presentation on dredging.
With that, but we also have a whole lot of other things on the
We
agenda.
could add that as a discussion, like John mentioned,
Yeah.
and then vote on it March 5th. By that time, we'll have the information from Hyman. You know, we're looking at the rules of 2 different townships that want to ban the commercial use of cabanas, but not banning cabanas. But we're just looking into it. So Hyman is going to look into that for us, and we'll discuss it on the workshop at the end of February and vote on it March 5th.
Why
Right.
why can't we hear what the people are here tonight to
Well, they can,
We
they can.
Open meeting, they can still talk.
We can't.
It doesn't preclude them, at the end of the meeting, they can stand up and talk about anything they want. It just means that it's not an item for action by the council tonight if you take it off the agenda. That's the only significance. All right, so you're gonna amend it to February, to table it to February 20th?
That's fine, but
Okay,
I still
okay.
want people who
And-
are here tonight.
No, everybody's gonna have a chance to say anything that they want. Mark? Okay, so the motion is to table it to the February 20th meeting. That's the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. The, any other items, motions with regard to add or detract from the agenda? All right, I have a motion to accept the remainder of the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next item on the agenda is council discussion. I want to start out with a couple of things. One is for those of you who are aware or might not be aware, I wanted to publicly commend the police department. There was a letter to the editor in the recent Beacon about where one of the police officers went an extra mile to assist a motorist on Old Georgetown Road who had a vehicle problem, and they commended it, and it speaks well for the entire Sunset Beach Police Department, and I wanted to publicly commend that. The second thing is, you're going to find me tonight, if I can remember to do it, insisting that we have to take action on certain things. We have to either approve it, these are agenda items, either approve it, adopt it as amended, defeat it, table it, or withdraw it. The reason for that is the new administrative software we have links the agenda to the minutes, and without a definitive action on items, the computer system gets all upset. So we have to have a definitive action on each one of those, and I'm going to try and remember that we have to do that, but that's why I'm asking for that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that tomorrow I have an interview in Wilmington with an organization called the Consensus Building Institute. They were retained by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They are considered to talk to stakeholders in with the North Carolina perspective with regard to offshore wind farms. The federal government has retained them to have public input, and in 2016, we submitted a resolution dealing with offshore wind farms. So I have to go up and meet with these people tomorrow morning. All right, anybody else have anything?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
We've had, this is in my capacity as the Assistant GSAT representative, if you will. We've had a couple of our citizens who have called in about the status of repaving of Georgetown Road, which is getting between 904 and 179, which is getting to be in a pretty sad state of affairs. And the answer is from NCDOT that it is on the paving schedule for the fall of 2018, for the fall of this year. So it's not going to happen immediately, but it's going to happen in pretty fast time in terms of the way bureaucratic politics and highway decisions normally get made.
John, are they gonna repair what's really bad right now, or are they gonna do anything?
They're going to repave it then. I don't have anything on whether they're going to keep doing spot repairs as
So
they've
they
been
have some
doing.
big holes out there.
Yeah.
I know.
Can we request they patch the holes?
Well, we can request it. I know from conversations with Susan that Dustin could probably be part of, I'm sure was part of that, to move it along, and the response is, well, it'll go on the bottom of the pile.
More you request.
The more requests, the lower you go. But they did reach out to the DOT with regard to that and several other ones. It shows how much influence we have, right?
Mr. Mayor, if I can inject something, I think it would be nice, and I think we discussed this earlier, and I thought we agreed to it, that if we could get the agenda to the council before it goes public.
Mark and I met with Susan, was it this morning, wasn't it?
Yes.
Boy, time flies when you're having fun. And that's one of the issues we talked about, is that,
Okay.
so it's being addressed.
Thank you.
We'll stay on top of it, but we did discuss it.
All right.
Okay,
Real quick, Lisa, is that legal to send us an email prior to going out to the public? It does. So that agenda's not been out to the public when we see it.
I think it's more
30
than.
minutes? Can you give us a day? Is it legal to give us a day?
I think the purpose, as I understood it, was that not all of the attachments, but the agenda itself before it's set to go out to the public
Right.
is seen.
Yeah.
I think that's what you intend.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the whole agenda packet, just that
Just the agenda.
Yeah. All right, any other comments? All right, I'll call to order the 7 PM regular council meeting. Request everyone join me in pledging allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, request to amend section 11.08 exemptions of the town of Sunset Beach UDO regarding establish, extend special event sign durations. I do have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the public hearing is now open with regard to any public comment regarding the proposed amendment. If anybody has any comment that they want to make, if you come forward, state your name and address, and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Sit down.
Hi, Carol Scott, 1527 North Shore Drive. I'm just going to reiterate the comments that I made a couple of meetings ago on the sign thing. I don't think anybody ever anticipated that we were going to wind up in a situation with having multiple large signs both at the park and at the gazebo area on the beach, and I assume nothing would really restrict additional signs from appearing for half a year. It was more than the town wanted. We were trying to control signs. It seems to be proliferating. The old ordinance we had was never enforced. All this one is doing is putting a Band-Aid on that by saying, okay, we didn't enforce the last one, let's go ahead and allow somebody to do even more now so we don't have to worry about enforcement. This is not what the community ever wanted. People are not interested in looking at a number of signs. We have no obligation to provide free commercial advertising for-profit operations. I can certainly understand some of the nonprofits doing signs for short periods of time, but not having them continue for half a year. Thank you.
Thank you. I skipped, anybody else, public, entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
I skipped over the, an item where I should have asked, does any member of the council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state at this time.
Nope.
None appearing.
None.
We'll move on. I indicated that I was going to, the next is item 6. I indicated I was going to give a presentation, hopefully a short presentation on the town condition. What is intended to do is to summarize my, and it's only my opinion. It's not, I'm not speaking on behalf of council, it's really mine, as to the what's taken place through the last calendar year, that all in one place, because I think it needs to be recognized. During the calendar year 2017, that's the year I'm talking about, the staff and the council has addressed and accomplished a substantial number of matters. A brief synopsis, which is follows. First is regarding litigation. In August, the litigation between the town of Sunset Beach, Coastal Communities at Ocean Ridge Plantation LLC, and its surety on the performance bond for the enforcement of the subdivision improvements agreement for Jaguar's Lair was resolved by entry of a settlement agreement in the litigation and an amended subdivision improvements agreement providing for specific completion dates for various requirements of the development. To date, the requirements of the agreement are being met. In November, a memorandum of agreement in the litigation regarding the development known as Sunset Beach West was entered, which provided that the property would remain in an undeveloped state similar to Bird Island, which it adjoins, with the resolution of commitments required by the state pending and expected to be finalized by the end of May of this year. The third item under litigation is the threatened litigation regarding zoning of Riverside Drive and other undeveloped parcels was avoided by rezoning. The projects that the council and the staff have been involved in, and this is not just council, I want to emphasize that this, the substantial portion of this is the result of the efforts of the staff. The shoreline management pre-dredging analysis proceeded with an additional shellfish study, historical study, and scoping meetings held with various permitting agencies, and decision was made to proceed with a 3-part dredging application. A project update from our consultant is on the agenda for February 20th. A stormwater infrastructure study, management plan, and capital improvement plans was adopted to address stormwater issues. A satisfaction of the grant requirements for the town park was completed. Residents requested paving of Cobia and North Shore Drive East. That was approved, with the paving to be completed this spring. Sidewalks for Main Street were approved. Design proceeded with completion of the construction anticipated this year. In cooperation with DOT, the bike lanes were approved along Sunset Boulevard to be constructed before this Memorial Day. Town Hall parking lot was repaved. Improvements were made to the interior of the Town Hall to include painting and reconfiguration of offices for the inspection department. The design of a living shoreline to protect erosion along the town park shoreline of the intercoastal was approved. Beach access ways were reconstructed. An updated CAMA land use plan was adopted. Repair of the roof of Fire Station 1 was contracted and funded. The beach rules for the use of tents and cabanas were revised. The rules for the use of the town park were revised. The next item is with regard to personnel and equipment. Ken Claymore was hired as the new police chief. The position of stormwater management was created, and that position was filled by a new hire. Vacant firefighter positions were filled with 3 additional firefighters were hired. New fire truck was purchased. GIS software was purchased. Financial software was updated. A new records management system was purchased. Acceptance of procedure for the use of credit card payments was received by the town. A new dump truck for the DPW was purchased, 2 new police vehicles were purchased, new pickup truck for the fire department beach patrol was purchased, a vehicle for the inspections department was purchased, and I wanted to point out projects that were funded. Construction of the bike paths from Fibbers to the roundabout was partnered with NCDOT in connection with the repaving of Sunset Boulevard to be completed this spring. A $100,000 grant was received for construction of the sidewalks on Main Street, and a grant of $34,450 was received for the design and construction of the living shoreline. And I wanted to point out that all of the foregoing that I just mentioned, all the items that I just mentioned, were accomplished within the fiscal year 2018 budget with no municipal rate increase. For 2018, there are many issues and projects to be considered during the 2018 year. A budget planning session has been scheduled for 1 p.m. on February 20, at which time upcoming plans, projects, expenditures, and purchases will be discussed and prioritized, with a proposed draft for fiscal year 2019 budget to be presented to the council on April 2. Budget work sessions are scheduled for April 17, 18, and 24, with a proposed final draft budget to be presented to council at the May 7, 2018 council meeting. I'm finished. They're not short, but the next item on the agenda is minutes for approval. Unless anybody has anything that they want to raise, we could adopt the December 19th and January 8th minutes together. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
That
Well-
includes typos and corrections that we sent in? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The next item on the agenda is public comments on agenda items only. This is an opportunity for people to have who have a comment on agenda items. Go forward and speak. If you do, please state your name and address, and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have comments on any items that are not on the agenda or that have been removed from the published agenda, there will be an opportunity at the conclusion of the meeting where you can make comments on anything that you want. This is on agenda items only. Anybody have comments on the agenda items? None appearing. I'll move on to the next item, which is Town Administrator Report.
She's out sick.
That's the report?
That's the report.
Okay. She is, for those of you who don't know, she got a shot today, and she's just now coming down with the flu. Department reports. Police Department.
Good evening. You have the report in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions if any of you have about that. I also want to let you know that I was invited to meet with several residents of Sea Trail last week who are interested in forming a community watch. The police department will act as a liaison for that, and I'm excited to get that underway and up and running with them.
Chief, I noticed that we've had 2 officers resign,
Correct.
and I just asked, why was the council notified of that? We were never notified of the 2 resigning officers until today.
That I discussed with Ms. Parker when that happened.
Okay. That's a very good thing about Joe.
I'm sorry?
That was a very good article in the Beacon. That's very good for the
Absolutely.
town.
I agree.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So do you have a plan for filling those vacancies?
I do, and I was going to meet with Ms. Parker tomorrow to discuss. We've been going through the process already to get those vacancies replaced as soon as possible.
Any other comments or questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire Department?
You have our monthly report. I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that we will be teaching CPR at Station 1, February 27th. We have an 11 a.m. class and a 6 p.m. class open to everybody, anybody that wants to learn CPR.
What's the
11
second
a.m.
time, Cap?
6 p.m. Be at Station 1,
The first one was 1.
11. And if I'm not correct, it takes about an hour and a half. So we come in, we'll have the dummies and we'll go through the whole CPR thing, but we're, how to use an AED, the whole 9 yards. So if anybody's available for that.
I'd encourage anybody, public and council, it's a worthwhile exercise. I had an experience, we were out in California a couple weeks ago, and my wife and I were sitting at the table for two eating dinner, and there was a table for two behind us, and I'm sitting there eating, and all of a sudden, a male's head appeared on the floor under my seat, and it was at a hot spring spa, and he had spent the whole day in the hot tub, and then was drinking wine at night. And for those of you who don't know, when you get in a hot tub, you lose all your electrolytes. And he passed out and went down on the floor, and he thought he was okay. He got up back in the chair again, and then fell on the floor. And it was embarrassing for me because I couldn't move. He's right under my chair. And so I couldn't even move to do, and people had to rush over, and he actually stopped, and they had to do CPR and went on to get him going again. And then eventually the first responders arrived, but you never know when you're going to encounter that kind of an experience. So I'd encourage anybody that has any interest in it at all to take advantage of it. My wife says she's got to go. She's got to go. She doesn't want to have to take care of me.
Kevin,
Yes.
will you be able to get recertified there?
That'll be, it's not a certified class. But if you do know somebody that needs to recertify it, let us know. We do have instructors that can work with you and get you into a class for
Thank you.
recertification. And we have to recertify a couple of people. I know it's coming up, so we'll probably have one real close to this time of year. Probably right before summer. I think we're getting ready to do a recertification class. So we also have a trench rescue class coming up next week. We will be in the building for a day or two, and then we will be up in the Sunset Ridge neighborhood where they're doing construction, and we'll be learning how to do some, well, I've been there, done that. So we're going to be teaching some new people how to do a trench rescue, and be working on that for the whole week. Am I missing anything? Beach Patrol ad is going out probably next week.
How many people do you hire? You're looking to hire?
We're looking to get some to get started, you know. We got an early Easter.
What's ideal?
I think we talked about 16, right? Roughly, because they're part-time and some of them work other places, and you may just get them on the weekend. Then you have some that'll work the whole week. So I think we were looking at between 14 and 16, but we're not turning anybody down because we may have that many people, but they may only work, they get out there and decide they don't like it, you know, or they only can work 11 to 3, or I can only work, you know, they got kids. And so we work a lot of people on that roster. We bring a lot of people in, not all of them work. So
How long is the training period for preparing these beach patrol people to go out there on the beach?
well, we're hoping for we have quite a few returning, so we're looking at, and it's mostly on the job, but we start that in Easter with some people, but then we get to college and when school gets out at the end of May. But roughly, you're looking at about 2 weeks that they're, you know, taught. Before they come on, though, they have to know CPR, they have to know how to swim. You know, there's certain aspects they have to meet before we even bring them on.
Kevin, are you now patrolling all the way to the jetty or just to the sign?
Well, the jetties are a fire district, so we do make a run down there, but we're not actually enforcing anything down there. We're just making a ride, checking people, checking what's going on down in that area, and then we make our way back.
Okay.
The only ones I know for a fact that have enforcement capability now is the police department, still.
Real quick, Chief, we're going to have that ability all of this year, right?
Right.
To enforce.
Anything that falls under North Carolina General Statute, not on ordinance outside of the city limits.
Okay, great.
Yes, also.
But we don't do any enforcement outside of, you know,
Right.
the town ordinances. Any other questions?
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Chief. DPW?
Dun, 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 dun.
Just like to add that 40th Street, we're hoping to have it completed this week and get it back open. Once we get it done, within the next couple of weeks, we'll be taking 12th Street down, beach access, and doing some work to it. Regarding to Kobe and North Shore, we met with contractors. We are looking at March or 1st of April to get started on the paving of that roads with them. They have to be done by May 1st. DOT would be doing some causeway repairs, supposed to start February the 19th.
They're gonna drop rocks,
They're gonna drop the rocks on the side of the road and push them over.
both sides or just one?
Just one side, on each side, but there will be some lane closures at times. The work, and they also going to work on the little retention pond that they got at the bottom of the bridge going over to the island on the right. So there will be some lane closures at time. They are looking at taking about 2 months to do this work that they've got to do.
Are they gonna do it before the summer?
It's supposed to be done before Memorial Day.
And
That is the goal.
that was the result of Matthew, right?
Yes.
Does everybody understand that they're gonna drop rocks on the causeway on the
Mm-hmm.
left-hand side going onto the island because of the erosion through Matthews, right?
Yes, due to Matthew. Also, if you notice, we've added some road failures. Crooked Gullies took a big hit from the ground freezing first of the month. So we are also dealing with it just like DOT is. We've patched them what we could, but we are having to wait till the weather improves and let the ground dry out before we can do any paving. And it's probably the same deal with DOT with Georgetown out there.
As I understand, you have to have a sustained period over 40 degrees.
You gotta be above 40 degrees and rising to pave.
Okay.
Any other- go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions. Dustin, I'm impressed by the copious records that you keep. And my concern is, and I may be a little confused, we're retrieving trash cans. And I understand you're looking for someone to do that now.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Okay.
Are we retrieving cans both on the island and the mainland?
One section behind Town Hall, the section on the island, on the mainland, and on the island, yes.
So we're doing both the island and the mainland?
Not all the mainland, just behind Town Hall here for the mainland and all the island.
Why? I'm just asking the question why. I was surprised to see,
The reason is that you had a lot of homeowners that was coming down just for the weekend. And they would roll their trash can out when we first started this. And they were like,
all right,
they were leaving her out, so that's the reason why they got into that program too.
yeah, no, I'm hoping to get some, regarding Cabanas, I'm hoping to get some data from Dustin regarding the trash that is left over by people who erect their own personal cabanas, and sometimes they never seem to take them down, and we find them in the trash each morning. So Dustin is getting that information for us. Thank you.
But our roll cart attendant, he did resign, or not totally resigned yet, but he will be leaving us, so we will be advertising that position within the next couple of weeks for that. And it's a part-time job. During the season, it's twice a day, or during the week, trash pickup, and during the regular time, it's one time a week.
And he left because he had a full-time job.
He got a full-time job, yes.
Any other questions, comments?
You looking for a job, Bob?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Judson.
Thank you.
Finance?
Hi, everyone. You have the financial report for December and a list of budget transfers. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Bonnie, the only question I have,
Mhm.
you're doing all these transfers, but these are internal operating
That's correct.
accounts.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's just moving money
No,
around within
no,
a department.
I understand that.
Sort of like paying the bills?
Yep. But I'm doing this every quarter, so that's, we're good through the end of December. Tonight, you received 3 pieces of paper that I can go into more detail about, but I will just mention that they are in response to Councilmember Benton's request for more detailed overtime information as you go into the discussion about the employee bonuses, and also Councilmember Harris's request for turnover information. The information is very dense, so I'd be happy to go into more detail. It's not light reading, so, but it
The
is.
only question I have is on the overtime.
Mhm.
You've worked in other townships. Is this pretty typical to have this many hours on overtime?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's primarily in police and fire, and that's entirely typical. It's just, well, with fire in particular, you have 24-hour shifts, and if somebody's sick, they're sick for not 1 shift, but 3 shifts, 3 normal shifts, 3 8-hour shifts. If you think of someone being out sick for a day in the fire station, they're out sick for 3 shifts in a row. So it's the nature of the beast, and then the police with I mean, obviously the department heads can speak to it better than I, but it is typical in my experience.
My understanding with the, and we mentioned this at one of the prior council meetings a little bit, with the police, with the first responders, they are under different Fair Labor Standards considerations than an 80-hour, a 40-hour work week.
Correct.
Like the fire is under 216 hours. And if somebody calls in and says, I'm going to be 2 hours late, and somebody exceeds that 216 hours, that's got to be overtime to cover that period of 2 hours till the other person gets in there, correct?
Yes, but again, others can speak to it better than I. Lisa's got this down cold, and I'm still a student.
But 212, I'm sorry. And it's the same, the number's not the same, but the same concept applies to the police department, because I understand the fire company has 48-hour and 72-hour shifts, correct? So they're beyond for that period, and the combination, when they combine those schedules, if there's, that they have to add up to the 212 that you're well, they don't have to, but the limit is the 212 that you're talking about for regular pay. The police department is similar, but the hours aren't exactly the same, which generates the commonality of the overtime for those 2 departments.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying there's
And the-
$78,000 in the fiscal year last year? So that's a 6-month total, July to December. $78,000 in overtime. Is that what you're saying?
Let me find my summary here for a second. Where is it? For all of fiscal 17, we had $127,202 in overtime. And for half of fiscal 18, July of this year to December, we had $78,560. So
So we're on track to do almost what we did last year.
well, we budgeted less than we did last year. We had a lot more vacancies last year. So we're on track to getting closer to what we budgeted. So what we budgeted in fiscal 18 this year, we budgeted 98. We're up to 78. So it depends on what happens in the, most of the load that we have has already occurred because it's the summer months when our population swells and people are, there is a lot more activity. So I had projected a couple of meetings ago that we would be close to what we budgeted, which was 98,000, and I have since been informed that we probably won't get as close as I thought we were going to get. So we have a little bit more work to do.
It'll be more than 98,000.
It'll be most likely be more than 98, but it won't be, I can't imagine that it would be as much as last year, 127.
Okay.
Okay.
Other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Bonnie.
Okay.
Planning?
You have my report in front of you, and you get a weekly from me. I would like to point out, though, the housing numbers on here are a little bit low. We've had a boom over the last few weeks of people coming in and dropping off plans for new housing. We had 8 from one developer just last week. So houses are on the rise.
I mean, the only problem I have is, I still hear building on Sundays. And I don't know how we want to do that, Chief. I hate to call the police department for a builder when you guys have more important things to do. Should we tell you on Monday this house was being built on and you can go talk to them so we don't bother the police department?
I would suggest both, actually. I mean, we tell them it's on their permits, when they're allowed to work. We tell them when they get their permits, when they're allowed to work. So if they're still doing it on Sundays, then it's usually a sub that's coming in to finish up some work without any probably approval of the contractor. But I would let the police know so they can run over there, and then we'll address it again on Monday as well.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks, Hiram. The next item is under new, old business, on the agenda, the approved, adopted agenda is discussion concerning I want them for at least an item or two. Discussion of concerning improving business-community relationship.
Mr. Mayor, I put that on the agenda because I'm looking for some advice from the council and some input from the citizens how we can restore our business relationship, the town's relationship with the businesses. I mean, it has been fractured, and I must say, some in the business community still pitch in and contribute. They have contributed to the concert series, and when the mayor recently had his Halloween party, some have contributed to the candy, but it's something that we have to address. I don't have the solution, but it's a problem. And I think we all need to bang our heads together and to see what we can do to restore what I believe is a fractured relationship.
Have we done anything for outreach to our merchants in town? Do we have a list of our merchants? Do we know what their feelings are?
To my knowledge, once I don't know the exact status of the Sunset Beach Business and Merchants Association, because I've encountered extreme problems, extreme problems in trying to get any kind of responses to anything. There are issues that we have to address and we're going to address in the future. We're not need to address or discuss them here tonight. But since I don't know whether it's active or inactive, I've talked with some businessmen that were and officers in that organization that have no idea whether it's active or inactive. That's the last that I knew. To answer your question, that's the last thing. I don't think there's any organization. I agree that it is important that there be a relationship and that there be a program that the town participates in to foster the businesses and make their life easier and help them with what they need. I think it's something that really needs to be addressed. But in any event, the aspect with the Business and Merchants Association, I'll bring up, it'll be for another session. But
I agree, but I think maybe that first step should come from the town to go to the merchants.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Charlie and I talked about during the campaign season was the idea of trying to develop some informal roundtable type sessions, inviting business people to come in. The problem is getting the communication to inform us what really are the issues that are disturbing the businessmen. I mean, most of us are not in business. We didn't come down here to be in business, so we kind of lose track of that. But, you know, are there things that we can do to help attract business and customers to Sunset Beach? Activities that we could do? How do we expand the shoulders of the season, which is for our restaurants and various shops and stores that we have? It's good to keep the population going. Is there flexibility that we might consider in terms of our codes when they're trying to come in to open up a shop? At least talking to them. Is there an area where we are really hindering businesses coming in? Are there things that we can do to demonstrate a positive, welcoming environment where we want businesses to come into Sunset Beach? Are there incentives that we could offer them? Assistance sort of in advertising on our town website, or perhaps some type of tax-related assistance. I really don't know. And I don't know what they need. But the idea was to establish a forum, an informal forum, to ask them to come in and start a discussion and get their views. Get their views in something other than a 3-minute session up at the front of the dais where they have an issue or a specific issue or a complaint. But this is to get an exchange of idea going.
Maybe we do something during the budget meetings.
Well,
Have them come in and talk.
What I'm going to suggest, I have reached out to some, and they're certainly not representative, some business people, and had extensive discussions with them. There are a myriad of issues, and obviously the only ones that were identified are ones that that particular person might have. I think that what I was going to suggest is that there be a committee of council. It can't be any more than 2 council people that does this and organizes this outreach. I'd like to suggest that John head it, and then
Thanks.
The council could, it's going to be your decision anyway, and then that somebody else join him, so that because we can't do it as I think that the budget time is going to be tough.
I would be happy to work with John on that.
Okay, then, and of course, the real resource is Lisa and Susan for contacts.
All right, Lisa, if you could just put a plan together for us and tell us what we need to do, where and when, and Jan and I will step forward and take care of it.
Okay.
If I may, I'd be happy to join up with that. From a land use perspective, a lot of what the businesses have to deal with have to go through me, so I'm more than happy to volunteer to help out with that.
Yeah.
Hiram, in the planning board is working on parking.
Yeah, they're starting down the road to look at several parking adjustments. We're starting small though, instead of overhauling. But parking is a major issue for our limited real estate for commercial properties, and we're looking to address that with by minimizing the minimums. So.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, I got to take some definitive action on it. That's going to be, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the creation of this committee.
Right.
Somebody move that?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm going back to the fact we got to take some definitive action. The next item is the fire department staffing hiring freeze. That's Councilman Serrato. Before I asked you for comment, Rich, I and Mark had discussions with Susan about it, and unfortunately she's not here, and she had some difficulties, and we never did get into real depth, some difficulties in what you call it. I don't know, she discussed that with you, Hiram?
No.
All right. So I would prefer that she be here when we talk about it. But if you want to talk about it, I can't stop you.
I'll motion to table it until she's here.
Okay.
She needs to be here.
We'll table it to the 3rd or the 20th.
20th.
Okay, February 20th. There's a motion, a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Grady, I don't think we need you unless you want to.
Oh, you have enough fun to stay?
Thank you. The next item is the employee bonus structure final action.
I'd like to put a motion that we give the employees a $300 bonus, one time, not to be an ongoing a bonus, but this year, a $300 bonus to the employees of Sunset Beach.
That's for the calendar year 17.
17.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I really would have liked to have $500, but I would be willing to accept the $300. And is the understanding clear that this is for all the employees?
Correct.
And also the understanding that this is a one-time deal
It's-
only.
Correct.
That's the motion. It's not a precedent. It's not a policy established.
It's not to set the precedent, because there's a long history to this, and I'm sure Carol Scott can easily verify it. We went into a pay for performance system and eliminated bonuses. This is not the first year that staff has done without a bonus. My feeling on this, I have mixed feelings. My feelings on this is that we have some employees who are not highly paid, which I call a living wage issue, and we know who they are. And the idea of giving everybody a bonus when we have these issues to address, I would much prefer that this be deferred until we go through our budget process and identify the issues that we have. Now, I realize that expectations have been raised, and I just want the assurance that this bonus issue will not be discussed in fiscal year 19. We have a pay-for-performance system, and that we need to think with our heads and not with our heart. And so I will support this bonus, and I will only support it knowing that it is not precedent-setting, and it is only a one-time event.
Well, Bob, I'd just like to say that after I made this proposal in December, I went out and talked to several employees of the town of Sunset Beach, and the majority of them would rather see a raise in their salary than the bonus. But that's going to be several months away. That's why I still pursued the $300. But Rich is right. We have a set of employees in this town that just barely makes a living wage, and it's not right. We need to address that issue in our budget. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
I strongly support that, and I think we should recognize our staff and give them this bonus, and I'm happy with doing a one-time bonus. I think clearly we need to understand that when we go into our budget cycle, we need to readdress what got postponed at the last minute last year, and that's doing a formal study of benefits and pay and allowances so that we can address these issues. If we have people on the staff that are severely underpaid and undercompensated, you know, we need to have the facts to go with it, and then we can make the adjustments from it. The sad point is to put out an RFP to do the study now, which last year would have cost about $30,000. There's no way that it would be done in time for our budget cycle. So we, again, are going to be going into our budget cycle trying to talk about pay, salary, benefits, and problems to address, to help improve conditions for our staff without good facts in front of us.
With all due respect, we don't need to do, we don't have to go out and hire an outside firm. We can do that in-house. I have done wage and benefit surveys for 15 years for a large corporation. It's not that difficult to do. and we can do it in a timely fashion, in time for the budget. We can do it ourselves. And yes, we do have a salary scale that needs to be upgraded, and we need to take a look at everything. And this is not done by just asking a town to send us, what are your benefits and what is your wage scale? It's more complicated than that, but we don't have to hire an outside firm to do it.
Are you saying that you can do a pay-in salary and benefit survey within the next month and a half or so to fit into our budget cycle? That would
Yes.
inform this cycle, and you're willing and able to do that?
Yes,
Separate from the bonus issue?
separate from the bonus issue.
I would like to put a motion
Absolutely.
that Jan forms
Well,
this
we
committee.
got
to do
one
that.
motion. You can do it, but we got one motion we got to deal with. The motion is to grant a one-time, non-precedent-setting $300 bonus for all employees for the calendar year 2017. Right?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Is not what I just said? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now,
I'd like to put a motion on the table that Jan is on the committee to look into the wages and benefits for our employees for our budget meetings coming up in end of February.
second?
I'll second that.
For
If she wants to do
For
it.
discussion purposes, I've discussed this with Jan. I've discussed it individually with each council member. That is the subject of a salary and position study. My position is that we need one. I don't care whether it's commercial or it's done by Jan, if she has the experience and competency to be able to do it, and I have no reason to believe she doesn't, based on my conversations with her. So I think the majority of council agrees that it needs to be done before we adopt a fiscal year 2019 budget, and we ought to get going on it sooner rather than later.
I agree.
All right, Any other
Mayor?
discussion?
Yeah.
Charlie?
In 2011, Councilman DeVita did a study. It was very detailed, and the council people didn't like it, or some of the council people didn't like it. So I don't know why it would be any different if Jan does it. That would be the one reason I'd be in favor of a professional study.
The
There's more to it. There's more to it than who makes what and what kind of benefits they get. Some of our employees wear 2 and 3 hats, where other towns have employees for each of those.
Well, I've had, as I
That's all
said,
taken into consideration
I
in
said,
the
I've had
study.
conversations with Jan, and what she said, and I have no reason to disbelieve her, is that was her position, was doing these salary and benefit studies for a major corporation for a number of years, making recommendations to the corporation's management, who would make decisions based upon her reports. I'm satisfied, at least from my conversations with her, that she knows and has the experience as to what's necessary to go into it. And as she said, it's not just looking at numbers on a piece of paper.
And do we have
I think it's
anybody in
worth
the
a try.
private sector that would like to help her out? I'm looking at you.
Mr. Mayor, when the council did the survey 5, 6 years ago, surveys are for local areas. And the survey that Mr. DeVita and Mr. Sherrill did went beyond the county. You can't go to Wilmington to find out what a policeman is making. We have region, and our region is Calabash, Holden Beach, Ocean Isle, Oak Island, and even the county. This is our region. You don't do a survey in Boston and call the people in New York to find out how much they're making. So it has to be done locally.
And that's
Excuse
fine,
me,
but-
excuse me. My experience, and that's extensive, doing wage and benefit surveys, I believe we need a 50-mile radius. That's where we draw employees from, a 50-mile radius, not just within the county. And that's what I would recommend that this salary survey be based on.
Well, if I can, we lose nothing if we vote on this motion affirmatively to have Jan do it, because we can't get an RFP out and get a commercial one done anyway. When I look at demographics, it is not all local, because Sunset Beach is uniquely situated. There's one other beach community that I'm aware of that has very similar characteristics. I don't want to mention it because I'll get in an argument with somebody, I'm sure. To the Sunset Beach, which has an island and a mainland. We have a substantial mainland connected with the island. Ocean Isle doesn't have it. Calabash doesn't have it. Carolina Shores doesn't have it. Holden Beach doesn't have it. So you have to look at those kind of dynamics, whether it's 50 miles or whatever, but those are the kind of characteristics you have to look at. It's not just localized, and I think that's what Jan was saying too. So anyway, we have the motion. Anybody, any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're on. Next is an ordinance to amend 95.01 definition of baby pop-up tents. We've all received a copy of it. Anybody want to make a motion with regard to it?
Put a motion that we approve it.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The ordinance to amend this Article 11 signs. That was what was the subject of the public hearing. Anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm unclear what Carol Scott mentioned this evening makes a lot of sense, and we have been lax. The town has always had a policy not to advertise for profit-making ventures. Somehow this has been watered down, and I would like to have some assurance that this practice is no longer being continued.
Well, Hiram, you be the guy to address this.
So to get it straight, the question is,
The town has always had a policy not to advertise for profit-making ventures.
all right, this isn't the town advertising.
These are signs.
Right, but these are special event signs that for any special event. This isn't just for a for-profit event or anything. This is all special events. So for us to categorize them as special events and fall under special events, they need to be treated as the same.
So,
It's not a-
okay, so the special events are for both profit and nonprofit. Is that
Right.
what you're saying?
It's for anybody who holds a special event.
How, may I ask a question? I can't see for business profit, which we have two of them operating in the park, for-profit businesses. That's not an event. That's a business. That's a business. It's not an event.
Well, if that's the case, then you need to go back to the special event rules. Because this coincides with the special event rules of what's allowed at the park as a special event would have to follow these sign parameters. Before what was happening, practice and policy weren't adding up. The solution was to make them add up to the desires of what changed with the park rules. So just to point out, this has nothing to do with for-profit, nonprofit, any profit whatsoever. This is just pure and simple. If there's an event going on, they can display signage.
But how do you so what do you describe as an event? Do you
I
have the
d- I don't.
definition of an event?
I don't,
Yeah.
there's
all in
a
the special
disconnect
event
here that probably
policy.
needs to be explained. The UDO doesn't handle the special events at the park.
Okay,
The
what
town
I'm
ordinances do.
asking for is the definition of an event.
I don't have that. These are exempt signs, or exception signs, that if there's a special event that's granted by the town, they can fall under these rules.
This is a UDO ordinance.
Right, this is for the UDO, the sign part is, but the town event stuff falls under town rules. It has nothing to do with the UDO, so I can't speak to that. I can only say that if an event is approved by the council or Susan, however y'all have it laid out, then they have to follow these rules.
So what you're
I-
saying is that we need another formal policy?
I believe this needs to be sent back to the planning board for more work. I think events needs to be spelled out, and I don't think the cumulative impacts have been looked at. For instance, if we start having more events, are we gonna have signs plastered all over town? Where do you draw the line? I really think this needs more work.
Well, this may not be the thing that needs the work, is what I was saying, is it's the event thing, because if you have, the event language limits the number of events you can have at certain times. And all this does, it says if you've got an event, this is the kind of sign that you have to comply with, the regulation you have to comply with. So I think what was the reason for the modification in the first place?
To bring it in line with the special events policy that has been put into effect, and to make sure that the signage is in line with that policy.
Right.
And that policy went through rigorous examination and debate and discussion, and got put out, and the signage was slightly out of sync with the special event policy. So these minor changes that got put in there were to bring that in line.
Correct.
And then,
My question is what Carol Scott said is, are we gonna enforce the new rules? We didn't enforce the old rules. Signs stayed up longer, bigger.
That's what they're letting them do.
I know.
That's what we're
well,
letting
the
do.
way it was special events were approved, and with that, they approved, one side of the town approved having signs to go with the special events. And that was not in sync with what was in the code and the policy. And so the idea is to bring this all together so that everybody is speaking from the same sheet of music about the same policy. And if my view is approve this, get it in place, and then if you want to go back in and re-examine and find different things, come up with specific suggestions,
Right, that's special
specific
events.
concerns that you want changed, and bring it up with, text, proposed text changes in the policy. But-
I'm not sure I understand, what events or businesses, do you have in mind?
Well, I think, I don't think you should focus on commercial or non-commercial and what constitutes an event. This ordinance sets forth the parameters of a sign as to what kind of sign you can have. Whether a commercial or a non-commercial falls under that regulation as an event is really a question for the park rules, not the UDO standards. This is a sign standards sign. It's in the same category as a business sign or a blade
Okay.
sign or something like
Right.
that.
Okay, but what makes me ask, and what I want clarification on, is if this is just gonna be just signs and passing this, then I'm fine. But Jan went a step farther. And that's what I'm having a hard time understanding.
Well,
What-
her, if I correct, I don't want to speak for her, but what I understand, her concern is that commercial shouldn't be considered in the same category as non-commercial in the event concept.
Correct. We don't allow this kind of special treatment for our brick and mortar businesses. We have strict regulations for those. Those kinds of regulations for our brick and mortar businesses should apply for for-profit businesses wherever they're operating.
I
And
mean, do
that-
we need a policy,
That
a
doesn't
separate
take into
policy?
account the broad range of different types of activities we have going on in this town. I mean, everything is not a brick and mortar, and.
Most
and so-
events are not brick and mortar events.
And that's why there's a special events policy that defines what events are, how to do them, when to do them, where to do them, and keeps it under the town management and control. And this is simply a policy to bring signage in line with that special events policy.
I'm for.
And I think you're trying to make too much out of it.
No, we're not. And I think the issue is, why should government allow someone to advertise for a profit-making venture? And I say this too because they're even on the website. We have no business as a government advertising for profit-making ventures. None. And we're expanding into that, and we shouldn't be.
Well,
We're
it's-
informing the public of the events that are going on in our community. And I find it sort of a disconnect between, on one hand, earlier in the meeting, you're very concerned with how do we get along with businesses and attract businesses and people to our town. And at this point, you are going after
It's a-
specific
it's a-
for-profit businesses.
It's a separate issue. The business
I don't think
relationship.
it is. I don't think it is.
It's a separate issue.
Yeah.
If you, let me, I have a hypothetical. The half marathon, which is run.
an event.
It's commercial,
But it's an event.
but it's commercial.
It's for profit.
I know, but it's an event. It only takes place once. Right, once. It's an event.
Couldn't help yourself.
Then what we gotta do is redefine what event is.
Exactly. That's
think
what I
this is
started
okay.
out saying.
But I think we just need to look at events. Don't you agree with that? This signage is fine, I think. It gives regulations how long.
I disagree.
Exactly. I read this 3 times to make sure I understood it, and we're going far. I mean, I was ready to vote yes for this.
You should.
And now you want to throw some other stuff in the game.
Well, it's not, the only thing that's before you is the recommendation of the planning board as to whether we accept the recommendation of the planning board. Actually, what I should have done is well, nobody's made a motion yet, so I'm,
That can be done after the motion.
what's that?
After the motion, before the vote.
Yeah, all right. But
Bob, I'd like to put a motion
Very-
that goes back to the planning board to put a clause in there for special events and to determine what is exactly a special event and how is it treated any differently on the signage.
We have a special
Wait.
events policy.
wait, let's see if there's a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. But the difficulty is the special events policy is in the municipal code and the signs are in the UDO code, the UDO. So they're not in the same church. Am I right, Hiram?
Right, if this goes back to the planning board, which we're totally fine with that, my recommendation to the planning board will be that we just reference back to the general code for the town of the special event rules, because that's the only thing missing from this, because for us, it was common sense. Special events, special events. So,
Is it permissible for the planning board to develop a separate policy for review so that we can review it?
Well, no, because a
What's
special,
the UDO and when would be a policy?
yeah, but the special events is not a planning issue that would go before the planning board.
right, the total issue and the disconnect here is the planning board can't override the council. We only advise the council. The council, however, set up special events as a policy under administrative jurisdiction, which overrides us, which is why signs weren't being enforced fully, because we didn't have the authority to displace what y'all did. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. So this just brings it in line. The only thing we're gonna do is reference back to it, because if we have to create a separate special event policy, then anytime someone comes for a special event, they gotta go to the planning board, they gotta go to the council.
Well, I don't think you have authority over a special events
No,
policy.
But that's what I'm saying. If we actually ended up doing that as a separate policy, then the councils, they'd have to go through 2 approval processes for one event.
I don't
So
know.
my view was, we approve this, we bring them both in sync, and if we have issues as a council with the special event policy, with the definition of the events, or any of those things, we take that and we throw it into our pool of discussions and we start working on it. But meanwhile, we bring this in line so that it can be enforced, and we have a set of standards, and we can tell people what they're supposed to be doing.
Mr. Mayor, is there not a motion on the table?
I don't know, there was a second for it.
No second.
But there was, Mr. Councilman Benton did make a motion to send it back to the planning board. But if that's, I mean,
I'd like to
if
take
it's,
that off.
if it's
You
a
know,
useless exercise.
I think Jaime made perfect sense. I think John's okay. I think we should pass this, and then if we have issues, we should bring it back to the plan, have special events and add it something later with John or I to work on it.
If I may real quick, y'all can also amend this as you see fit. I mean, just because the planning board gave you this doesn't mean you can't just go ahead and make changes right now. If you know you're not happy with a specific part of this, y'all are more than welcome to fix it now.
Well, I think,
I'm not trying to like keep
I
the thing
think the
going
un-
here, but I'm serious.
I think the unhappiness is not with this ordinance, the UDO ordinance. The unhappiness is with the impact that it has on a special events thing, which is something else. So,
I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the planning board's recommendation to approve this ordinance to amend Article 11, signs, outdoor advertising structures, Section 11.08A 12, special event signs.
all right, before I ask for a second, the motion incorporates this language: the town council finds the proposed amendment is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, Town of Sunset Beach CAMA land use plan, in that it will support official town policy agreements to maintain small town charm, appearance, and atmosphere, is consistent with policy 36 involving usage guidelines for the park where many of these sign types will be displayed, and 3, works to enhance and protect the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community through steady tourism growth management. That's a finding that the board has, that the council has to make to adopt the ordinance change. Now, do we have a second?
I second.
All right, this is second. Any more discussion?
Well, you, on page 44, top paragraph, special events are defined as events that have a community-wide impact, usually involve the use of closing streets, use of town facilities and staff, require a town permit, or an event not otherwise classified as a temporary event.
You've got
Such
a
events
point.
include circuses, concerts, festivals, street fairs, road races, and other such activities.
What
I
he's-
think it covers everything, huh?
Well, but what you made, the point you're making is that this ordinance deals with special events.
Yeah.
Which is what it does.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, is that the language deals with the special events because it defines what they are.
I call for a vote.
Any other discussion? All right, as to the adoption of the ordinance amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. The next item is new business. Request for public hearing to amend Article 6 overlay district. Hiram?
Give me a second. This is just to request a public hearing for March 5th for planning board initiated change amendments to the overlay district, which y'all adopted last March. Some minor changes that really reflect bicycle parking, lighting requirements, shared refuse enclosures, and when the overlay conditions apply to existing businesses.
have these been a problem?
Honestly, nothing's been tested yet. This is in anticipation of just some areas that the planning board thought were weak and needed to be shored up.
Well, the reason I asked the question is, tonight we appointed a committee of Jan and John to reach out to businesses of which you're going to participate.
Right, I'll point out this relaxes some of the standards, which would be more business-friendly in that regard. This is an attempt to be a little bit less restrictive.
Well, my question really goes to is before Jan and John produces anything that we can sink our teeth into with regard to the business relationships, does this need to be done before then? I mean, is there an emergent need that it be done? I understand that it needs to be done, but.
Not really. I mean,
I don't think that our informal council, whatever we're gonna end up doing, should be a driving force, because we don't know where that is gonna go, where it's gonna take us. This is an immediate adjustment to your overlay
Well,
district
the reason
rules.
I raise the issue, I know from conversations that certain business property owners are upset with the overlay district. And I think an examination of what their concerns about the overlay district are
Well,
might be
I
a
think-
subject for your
Yeah.
committee's discussion.
I don't know if you had discussions with Dave Stewart.
he
But-
showed up to a few of the meetings.
Yeah, Dave has expressed to me, I mean, he has land that he's trying to lease and sell. And Dave has expressed to me that he finds this very restrictive and very costly for people to come in and put up a building. And there's a balance here. I mean, we haven't had, when I look down 179, it has been nicely developed. It has, at least the parts that have been developed. I think they look very presentable. But what is the balance? I mean, we're asking people to come in, build a building, and then we have all these restrictions and requirements for them to build. And I don't know if that's a distraction or if that's, I don't have the right answer. But there's got to be a balance somewhere. And Dave represents most of the people who own land. And I would like to hear from him and what his concerns are. I mean, are we getting too restrictive? And I don't know the answer to that.
All we're asking for is a public hearing for this.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
He's
It's
welcome
not-
to speak at the public hearing.
Yes.
But like I said, he has shown up to some of these meetings and has been part of these discussions, whether he stood up and spoke or not. But he was there. These meetings have been advertised. This motion was advertised, that the action that they took last week. I mean,
So, is it tonight that you're asking that we approve?
No,
no,
it's
we're
a
just asking
hearing.
for the public hearing.
Just a hearing.
Just setting the public hearing for next month.
For March 5th, that's what I'm
Right.
asking.
That's
Yeah.
all we're asking for is a public
That's all,
hearing.
that's all you're asking, for
Yeah.
a public hearing? Okay, I'll get a hold of Dave.
All
I'd
right,
like to put a motion that March 5th is the date that we have public hearing.
second,
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is concert series contingency plan discussion. Fred Thorne is present in the audience. And I know there was a meeting with Susan and Fred last week. I couldn't attend because I was in Wilmington at a press conference. And Susan was going to make some comments on it. Fred, are you in a position to say anything about it? The concert series?
We don't have one.
Well, I'm at a loss because Susan was going to carry the ball in this and she's not here. And let me, yeah, well, where you are,
Please do.
let me explain. There have been conversations with several council people, and this is not a done deal by any means, But what we're looking at, it was to take place during the budget process, a means of dealing with the concert series and other things that may be town events. The council has to discuss it, they have to be presented by the staff at those budget meetings. But as of right now, there is no alternative. That's the answer.
And we might add, we're still trying to get some legal advice and legal information regarding it.
But
Well,
you need to get the microphone.
I'll make it brief. Last fall, we reached out to approximately 10 organizations in town, nonprofits, homeowners associations, et cetera, and basically said that we have done this now for 6 years, and we were looking to hopefully transition the concerts to a new organization. We are a 501c4 nonprofit. I am the president of Sunset Beach Concerts. I've been involved since day one, back in 2012, I believe it was. Last year at budget time, we came to council asking for money last year. There was some discussion on that. At 10 o'clock one Monday night, it was decided that the town would support the 2018 concerts as a sponsor in the amount of $10,000. That makes the town a grand patron of the concerts. We had asked for more, but it wasn't coming forward. We're very appreciative of what the town has provided. That being said, Wilson Sherrill and myself sat in my office over here on Queen Anne Street struggling with what we were going to do, if it was going to happen or not happen. We had a couple of individuals come forward, business owners in town, that have agreed to help us if this was to proceed. We have not made any commitments to any bands. We're out actively seeking the additional funding to fund the concerts, which is a minimum of approximately another $20,000 we need on top of what the town has contributed. We have reached out to a number of businesses. Some of them realized that not having the concerts last year probably had an effect on their business, and they are willing to step up to the plate if we can pull it off this year. We're behind schedule in doing anything, but we have made a decision that unless we have the monies that we need to go forward with a full 15 concert season, that the possibility is that it won't happen. Last year we had to cut it back to 7. A lot of people were very upset. Not so much as at us, but they understood our position. We have some other challenges as to where the concerts are held. It's a beautiful place, but we cannot afford what the Village Park people are asking for, that we paid last year. We're trying to negotiate with the board there to make it happen. We do have an alternate site. It is not the town park where everybody wants us to move it. We are 4 volunteers. Everybody is a sponsor of the 8 concerts that are held around Brunswick County. This is the only concert series run by volunteers. So, any questions?
Yeah. Well,
Yes. How much did it run? How much did it cost to run the 15 concert season, the full season.
Approximately 15,000 if we didn't have to pay, I'm sorry, 30,000 if we didn't have to pay the village park.
And the
How much is
village
that,
park was 350?
$350 a week?
Fred, do the other towns sponsor these events?
They sure do. The other towns are sponsored by,
Or do they
Or
manage
funder.
them? Well, maybe that was the wrong question. Are they managed, but are they under the town structure?
some of them are. Some of them have a Parks and Rec person or something like that that's running them. Ocean Isle has a combination of the town and the Ocean Isle Beach Property Owners Association. Holden Beach, I believe, the town runs that. Leland runs that. Charlotte runs theirs. Calabash is a combination, I believe, of the town and the Merchants Association.
I was going to make a suggestion that we're not going to solve it tonight. I'm willing to step up to the plate and work with Fred and Wilson and get some town input so that they're not out there unaware of where the town is. I think what he's looking for is one of the problems we have with this, as with Sunset, is that it's an annual event that crosses over two fiscal years, so that part of this is going to take place in fiscal year 19 and part is going to take place in fiscal 18. There has been a budget item for fiscal 18.
And that's what we will use the 10,000 for, is the 18 season, which we hope will run from the end of May to the beginning of September.
And the real problem is that we can't sit on our hands because time is passing and we can't afford to waste the time. So what I'm suggesting is that I'll work with them. I would like somebody else from council.
We don't need too much help, thanks.
Well, no, more, not.
I mean,
more to just to
Yeah.
so you have some input from the council
Yes.
as to what's going
we
on.
run a very, very well, and too many people and things.
Well, my
but for the input, we're willing
Yeah, my
to
purpose
listen
is
to
not to
input.
make telephone
Okay.
calls and see the bands. My purpose.
How about going out and asking businesses
Yeah,
for
with
money?
that.
That you're going to work on?
My purpose is so that you have some input from the town.
We'd
Obviously,
appreciate that.
we
Yeah.
can't talk
Mhm.
for the entire council, but at least, you get something so you're not floundering around, not knowing what things are going on.
Well, we plan to move ahead with a full season, and that's our goal for this year, is to do this Sunset Beach Summer Concerts 2018. That is our goal, and with a little help from the businesses in town, that's all we need. We're
So-
ready to book bands and everything else.
So you're sitting and you've got an alternate location in case
Yes.
the HOA
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come through.
Right,
You're willing to go through and do this. We've already committed $10,000.
correct?
And so if I'm hearing correctly, what you need is help fundraising.
Need some help fundraising and probably building a new gazebo on a new site.
Or at least a bandstand.
Some temporary or a
At
temporary.
least a bandstand with a tent over the top of it.
Yes.
For the concerts, and electric going into it. I had a wild idea that nobody would ever support,
I love wild ideas.
but you commit to extensive fundraising, and we assist you in fundraising, and we come up with a guarantee of 30,000 minus whatever fundraising we can come up with. That would be that.
10?
Pardon?
Over and above?
No, not over and above the 10. He needs a total of 30. We've got 10 in there, so they need to raise 20 more. So what we do is we pledge to cover 20 if we can't get 20,000 raised in our community. And then we go out and raise $20,000 in our community. We have all the councilmen sitting out on the street with a bucket.
I don't like the bucket idea. I think if,
But I mean,
if the council.
the point
Yeah.
is, from my personal point of view, the concert series has been a great thing for Sunset Beach and has been good for the businesses. You just pointed out that the businesses realized the reduced concert series had a negative impact on their businesses. So what we want them to do is to cough up some more money to donate that. But we still want to make sure that you have the guarantee that you can be funded to go forward.
Mhm.
So,
I think with this new committee that you're going to put together and going out there and visiting the businesses, I mean, that could be a help.
Well, the difficulty is,
Yeah.
as a town representative, you can't solicit
Okay.
money from the business.
Yeah, okay.
John and I have not discussed this. I had 30,000 written down also. You know, the other option is for the town to take it over, and for that, who are you gonna put that on? So I think it would be time to hire, and the position is there. It's not budgeted this year, but the position is there to hire an event coordinator or economic development person, someone that deals with tourism. They could work with every group, every nonprofit that has something holds something in the park. They could work with, well, not just nonprofits, but anybody that wants to hold an event in the park. And they could deal with the concert series. That would mean us budgeting it, the whole thing. And it's not that the town doesn't have the money.
the problem isn't the people to do the work to organize it and make it happen. They've got the people and the experience. The problem is making sure they have the funds so that they can go out and contract $2,000 for a band to come on the 30th of May or whatever it happens to be, and meet the expenses that are incurred. And that's where the challenge is, how to come up with the money to do that. And I don't think, my view is use the town as a safety net. And with already providing 33% of the money you need, the $10,000, we all work in the ways that we can to get businesses and our population to provide support.
I would like to
I mean,
see
the other
that,
thing
John.
that you've been doing is in the past, is asking individuals for donations.
Yeah,
You know.
our Friends of the Concert program,
Yeah.
which
And
needs,
needs to be
needs
boosted up
needs a
bit,
little
too.
beefing up,
Yeah.
yes.
I really believe before we start committing any more money from the town of Sunset Beach, we need to see what we could do privately to raise the money. We've gotten 10,000 already. Before we say we're gonna give another 20,000, let's go out there and beat the bushes and see
We
what
are
we can do.
doing it,
I know, Fred,
so,
I
I mean,
understand that. But I'm not.
If
you know,
you on
personally-
your own go out and, approach some
But
businesses.
I'm
and-
not here right now at any way to commit another $20,000 unless we see
We're
activity.
not asking the town
I know
at this
that.
point
I
for
know that,
another,
Fred.
any
But I'd
more
like to
money.
see what
That
we
was
could
my
do.
wild ass idea.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I sort of
Well,
like
we either
it.
want the concert
Yeah.
series or we don't.
But there's no doubt that we all want the concert series. This doesn't mean that, and because we don't agree with John, we don't want it. Let's not go down that road.
I
We
wouldn't go in
simply
there.
said, we have the budget meeting coming up in February. You got 10,000 to start it. That will bring you through September, so it's not like we need to do it right this second, Fred, right? Can we wait until the
No,
end of?
what we need is the businesses in town to step up for the balance of the
And we
money.
have Bob to raise $20,000 next week for you,
Okay.
and we'll support you.
Well, we already have part of that 20, Bob, so.
Yeah. The issue, Charlie's idea is a good idea, and it has been talked about, that's what I mentioned before. But that can't be in place in sufficient time to get this season underway, though, so.
No, we're
we have
running
to-
late right
Yeah, we
now.
have to rely
Yeah.
on, but.
And I get calls every day from people, what band is playing the week of? I want to plan my vacation.
Well, unless unless somebody on council is prepared, or not somebody, unless the council is prepared to take a specific affirmative action tonight with a motion that we can act on, you've certainly received the input of the council with as to where they stand on what's going on. Once again, it's not a written commitment you can take to the bank yet.
No, but knowing that we have the support of the town makes the four of us
You absolutely have the
feel a little
support of
more
this
comfortable.
council.
Okay.
We do want the series to continue.
We do too.
It's a great thing for
Otherwise,
the town.
nobody else wanted to continue it, so it, it fell back on us. And I hate to see it go away after 6 years. I put a
No,
lot
we
of
all do.
time and effort into it.
We all do.
Yeah.
All right, so
So there's your contingency plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Fred. The disposition directives for, we've got the conflict of interest policy for the 5th, the cabanas for the 20th, hiring freeze for the 20th, the public hearing for the overlay district on the 5th, the things that were listed, I don't know where my sheet is.
I covered it.
No, there's gotta be there's another sheet here that I don't.
Page 51.
That's what I can't find. 51, okay.
That's what we need.
Very back, Bob.
All right.
Yeah, I got it. The dredging's gonna be on for the 20th. The ERC rules and responsibilities, you all got a copy of the revised ERC rules. They should have been in the packet last week. There were changes that Susan and Hiram made, and I think Grady made, but it's the red-lined copy, not the copy that was in your packet the last meeting. The only need for that is before we consider appointing people to the ERC. So when do you want to move that to?
Could we put that on the workshop so
It
that,
would be a workshop for sure,
and
but
then we can vote on it on March 5th?
no, well, I don't want to do it the 20th because we got a lot on the 20th. I mean, there's nothing, we're not going to, if we put it on for the March workshop meeting, we can then act on it on the April workshop meeting. I don't know if there's anything that requires us to act on it before then.
What I meant was to put it on the February 20th workshop.
Right, but we got a lot on the 20th.
I think we can handle it.
Okay, all right. So that'd be the 20th. Climate control measures, John?
That's still a work in progress. Got to figure out how to move forward.
All
I
right,
don't
well-
have anything yet.
All right, well, let's, so we don't.
Indefinite.
Okay. The communications policy, that can go on for the 3rd. No, we don't think we need to discuss it. We discussed it the last time and nobody had any comments on it.
Right.
So that's really just for action. We can do that on the 5th. The Sunset Committee request, I'm gonna have to leave that as an open date. The amendment to keep premises clean, notice of violation.
This has been a learning experience. We sat down with the initial portion that was to be changed, and we made some rigorous changes to bring it into a nice simplified form. And then when we brought it into a simplified form, we violated page 2 of the regulations, and there's a lot of research to be done before we can actually go out and say exactly which parcels, how high the grass can be, how many times they get cut. There's a number of regulations that we were not aware of that have to be brought into line. And we're gonna have a meeting, and so we don't have a date.
Well, let's just leave it open.
It's gonna take a meeting between Dustin, Hiram,
Okay.
Ron and myself,
And
possibly Susan.
the Sea Trail Plantation Master Association streetlight request, Susan and Dustin have been working on that with BMEC, and they are waiting from information BEMC that they haven't received yet, so to make a presentation with regard to it, because it's not just a matter of acceptance of lights. And they don't have it and don't know when they're going to get it, so I'd just leave that open. I wouldn't put a specific
No,
date for
that's
it.
fine. I mean, plus we have to get what the town's past practice has been, Bob.
Well, I don't necessarily think you really want to abide by the town's.
Hmm?
I don't think you want to necessarily abide by the town's past practice, because the town
Well,
past
I
practice
would
is
like to know
accept-
what our practices have been.
Well, it's accepting what's there, which is which is not what is a good
So
idea.
it's gonna be open.
It's going to be open, yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the public comments. The floor is now open for public comments on anything. Once again, if you step forward, state your name and address, and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment, sir?
My name's Tom Borman. I'm at 1515 North Shore Drive. I'd like to know whether there's, if there's any further information about the implementation of flood maps. FEMA flood maps.
Hiram can answer that question.
The last we heard was we should possibly get a letter sometime this spring releasing the maps for adoption, which is FEMA likes to say is within 6 months of that letter being in our hands.
That's a county-wide or a?
Well, they're doing Brunswick County and New Hanover County together, Pender, Onslow together. So it'll be whenever they're released, New Hanover and Brunswick together as a region. That letter should go out to all the municipalities and the county jurisdictions at the same time. And we've been told spring, but we've been told spring before. So it's just, they're fairly certain it'll be this year. No, I know it's funny, but I'm serious, which is better than last year when they weren't giving us an answer at all. So,
Because the maps had been redrawn in 2014.
yeah,
Right?
13 for adoption in 16.
So
And they
are
were
the-
going to be out next spring.
Yeah. Now, there was a comment made at one of these meetings a while back that the town had sent a letter to FEMA saying, why can't the towns individually implement if they don't have any disagreement with the way that the maps had been drawn? Was there a response to that from FEMA?
I'm not aware of that, but I do know of another municipality that's done the same thing, and FEMA's response is always the same. They do it based on the region. They do not do individual maps.
Okay. All right, thanks. If you could keep us informed about that, I'd appreciate
As
it.
soon as I get the official letter, it will be announced to the world.
Other public comment?
Janet Jonas, 507 North Shore Drive. I would like to speak to the issue of cabanas. For the following reasons, I would like to see cabanas prohibited on Sunset Beach. Number one, cabanas contribute to the parking problems on Sunset Beach. As an avid exerciser, I frequently observe cars with Ocean Isle Beach and Myrtle Beach stickers and license plates parked on Sunset Beach. In some cases, I know because we allow cabanas. Number two, with the growth of development on OIB, an 827-acre planned community consisting of 2,520 single-family lots and 560 multifamily units, and in Calabash, 60 acres plus in Kingfish Bay community, space on our beach will be at even more of a premium. Number three, having our emergency personnel police the cabana rules is a waste of their training and time. And number four, the use of personal umbrellas will still allow individual sun protection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth?
Ruth Reynolds, 703 North Shore Drive, and I have a few points and facts to state about the cabanas. And Mr. Mayor, if I may have your approval to step forward and
Sure.
give the proof. Ms. Dillon, if you'll pass that to me. Okay, as we know, the Battle of the Cabanas continue. Sunbathers and umbrella users are being pushed out by preset, unused cabanas and chairs. And I have proof of this. I didn't label it for y'all because I think it's self-explanatory. Every year, there's an extra challenge added to the battle over a spot in the sand on our beach. New rules are applied each year without enough management and manpower to make sure the rules are being followed. The extra burden falls on town employees, which takes them away from their duties of their job description. A total ban of cabanas would be an easy solution to these problems. The legalistic layers of rules and regulations attest to an 8-year process out of control. The very definition of cabana, shade, shelter, tent, with their wide variety of stabilization systems, become an ongoing safety and enforcement nightmare. It's not if, but when an injury occurs, and I'm sure legal action will follow. And I've got proof of the stabilization being done incorrectly. Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, and Ocean Isle have banned cabanas with no loss in rentals. Sunset Beach is one of the smallest beach on the Carolina coast, but yet we allowed floods of them. I have had homeowners on the island say their rental families complain not finding enough space on the beach for their umbrella, their chairs, without having to deal with abusive behavior from the people occupying the cabanas. This includes mean-spirited verbal language, shaking their towels full of sand out on your backs if you're in front of them, and turning their audio equipment louder, which prevents you from carrying on a conversation with your family or guests that you may have there with you. Its chairs are set up in front of the cabana and towels, and I didn't get a picture of the semicircle chairs, but anyway, I did of the towels. And in front of the cabana to prevent anyone putting their umbrella up to obstruct their view. I myself and my family members and friends have witnessed this during especially high tide. The points and facts that I've mentioned can be argued forever. You, as council, have an obligation to the citizens, visitors, and all who visit our beach. Safety should be number one on our beach. I feel this is being compromised with the pretense of losing rental monies, notaries, and popularity. Council, I think it's high time to reel it in and get back to business of maintaining the beach environment that has earned Sunset Beach the National Geographic designation as one of the world's best beaches. Since the 50s, that environment has not included cabanas, umbrellas on the beach, respect for your neighbor, with recognition the reality of a barrier island and its changing beach conditions should be most important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Other public comment? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Darlene Kennedy, 101 North Shore Drive, and I am against the cabanas also. First of all, though, I want to thank the fire department for the excellent job they did last year. I'm with the Sea Turtle program, and they helped us so much, but by being there, I got to see firsthand the abuse that the officers that were trying to enforce some of the rules from the visitors gave them whenever they tried to tell them they couldn't put the cabanas where they wanted, the guidelines, the rules they had to follow. The officers were very respectful and patient. unlike a lot of the people responding to them. A lot of it was frustration on their part, I'm sure, but a lot of it was their, what's the word that the kids use? They're entitled. That's it. They're entitled. I found that the cabana issue, people are entitled to that space on the beach. They're entitled to not sit under there, but they want there to hold their space. As far as the kids, I heard somebody said, okay, the kids need to be protected. The kids aren't under the cabana. The kids are swimming, they're digging, they're out in front of it, playing in sand. They're doing things that kids do. If you're truly concerned about it, wear sunscreen, a hat, a long sleeve shirt like I do, sit under an umbrella. Lastly, we have such a beautiful beach, but at high tide, you can barely find a place to walk, let alone sit. So I would suggest that people come here because they love our beautiful, safe beach, but they won't be coming if they don't have a place to sit. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
I'm Jean Hunt from 105 Forest Walk, and we're right around the corner from Crooked Gully, and I want to thank the Public Works Department to be aware of that problem and have started to correct it. My question is, are they going to just do certain parts of it, or are they going to repave the whole of Crooked Gully? Because the parts that are marked are obviously terrible, but there's many other parts on that road that really need to be addressed. So
Well, I can speak to it generally. That was under a part of the town repaving plan that was supposed to be repaved a couple years ago, correct, Dustin? And I don't know exactly the reason why it was taken off of that repaving thing. It's probably good that it wasn't because of what's happened now.
Yeah.
So I mean, just guessing, and I haven't been part of that planning, but just my guess is that, or my understanding is that it's going to be repaved permanently one time as part of the immediate fix. I don't know.
so that it's not a
Dustin?
town, it's
Dustin?
not a Sunset Beach
No,
project, it's a
no,
county project?
No, it's a town project, it's a town road. So, Crooked
Okay.
Gully's a town road.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
immediately, if you don't see the whole road paved immediately, it's because he's got to get the patches done. But there isn't a intent to...
Long-range plan.
Yes. Yes.
Dustin, is there a stormwater issue there?
Okay?
Okay,
It's a half an answer. It doesn't give you everything you want to know, but...
well, it's helpful. Also, I'm a little confused about this thing about I guess it's about the park and the market that's going on in the park, the sign thing about the signs. We're talking about an event. Now, I guess you saw me kind of go, well, what's going on? To me, an event is a one-time thing, or maybe a weekend festival. It's not something that goes on for 4 months or 6 months or whatever. So I don't know if that
Well, it's
taken
obvious.
into consideration of how you decide what to do about that.
Well, with this UDO revision, you understand the distinction between the UDO and a municipal code? The UDO is a planning thing that establishes what kind of signs you can have for
Mhm.
anything. What it appears is that when you use the term event, it refers to an event that was characterized in the municipal code, and they may not necessarily be what was really intended. So it's got to be looked at. And it will be looked at.
And as far as cabanas go, I'm on the fence about that. I have a large family reunion coming this summer, and we've rented a duplex, a whole duplex on the beach. And I've got a daughter-in-law that's a kidney transplant patient. I've got 5 or 6 people that cannot take the sun.
Well,
So I'm really on the fence about the cabana issue.
I said this before, and when the opportunity arises, I'll say it again, that in anytime you get a public body together, other than in a large metropolitan area, you get two sides. A portion of the people want to drive the bulldozer, and a portion of people want to stand in front of the bulldozer, and they're both well-intended. You know, they both come from well-intended
They
positions.
both have legitimate issues.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else? None appearing. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have,
No.
who?
It did twice.
Did we turn the heat down so we could afford to pay the bonuses? Because the last 2 meetings has been extremely cool.
It's 73 degrees.
A promotion.